Start. Continue.
And we're live. Good evening, welcome to September's edition of Power BI Managed User Group. I'm your host, Alex Taylor from Robert Walters, and tonight we're in for a treat from Casper from Denmark, who's going to be doing his talk on Power BI web scraping. Quick intro for myself, and then I'll hand you over to Casper. We've only got one speaker tonight, so we'll be wrapping up around 7 o'clock. So do put your questions through as and when you have them, and we'll put them through to Casper and myself, Ben, and I think we've got Sheb online as well, so Sheb will also help answer the questions. If not, we'll put them straight to Casper. So I'll just quickly go through my slides. Power BI Managed User Group has been going for, so welcome to everyone who's new to Power BI Managed User Group. I'm sure we've got a lot of regulars. It's been going for, it's coming to now to 4 years. We started in late 2016. We get over 80 to 100 people per session when it is live in Manchester, so apologies to the guys that are missing out on the face-to-face interactions, the pizza and the beer. We will be back hopefully in 2021 with those face-to-face sessions. So we've got over almost 3,000 on LinkedIn, 3,000 on Meetup, 7,000 members on LinkedIn, and I said we get 80 to 100 attendees per month. Regards to the webinars, we've been doing since March. We've been getting around about 100 plus people that have been involved in watching these playbacks or live events. So thank you very much to everyone who's got involved. If you want the slides or links to the videos of the sessions you've missed out on this year, please do get in touch. As I said, the sessions are fun, leads to learn, and we do like to share desktops and encourage get in touch with our presenters. As I said, we've had some good reviews, but like Uber, we're averaging about 4.6. So if you do enjoy tonight's session or enjoyed previous sessions, do give a feedback review. Thank you very much. Quick thing about me, that's me in the middle, next to Guy in a Cube back last March, which was one of our highlight events. It said I'm a BI data recruiter, long in the tooth now, almost 16 years in the industry. As I said, if you are looking for a new role, do get in touch. If you're looking to change roles, get in touch. If you're looking to hire someone for your team, or if someone on your team or your company are looking to recruit someone, please do drop me a message on LinkedIn or contact me directly. My email is alex.taylor@robwalters.com, and my mobile number's there as well if you want a private call. And tonight's agenda, we've got quite a short one tonight. So we've got Casper in a couple of minutes talking about web scraping with Power BI, and then we've got some questions, Q&A time, and we'll wrap up around about 7 o'clock. So thank you very much, and without further ado, I will intro in Casper. Hello Denmark, can you hear me? Casper, still on mute? Can you hear me?
Oh, sorry. I forgot. Yeah. I was supposed to unmute myself.
How you doing, Casper? You well?
Yeah.
Good. You're
hi.
Now live, so introduce yourself.
I'm live from the cave. As you can see, it's pretty dark, and I have the screen light on me. But welcome to tonight's session with web scraping in Power BI. And I've put together an agenda. First, we're going to talk about me, because that's my favorite subject. Then we're going to talk about web scraping, what it is and why we do it. Then we're going to do some basic web scraping. And then we're going to look into a little bit more advanced web scraping. And then we'll finish off with a lessons learned. And as you can see, I've shared my desktop, and that's because we're going to have a few little demos along the way. So we'll see how that goes. Let's get started. Okay, so who am I? My name is Casper. I've been working in, I've been working in BI for 8 years now, and been working somewhat intensively with Power BI for the last couple of years. Yeah, I don't think we need to say that much more about me, really. Let's get into it. Or rather, let me just tell you, I work for a company called Proactive in Denmark, and we're part of this conglomerate called Fellow Mind. I don't know if you guys have heard about it, but some guy in Holland started buying up companies around Europe, and we've been part of it. Okay, so that's the marketing talk. Let's get moving. So, web scraping. What is it? Why? And what are we doing here? Web scraping is, as you can imagine, it's scraping data off the web. So we're extracting data from websites and not just using APIs or other sources. Now, web scraping can be used for a lot of things, like context scraping. You can also use it for mining your competitors' prices, or pretty much anything you can find online that you find useful. Also, you can do this without paying for it because it's public domain. Now, demo time. So we're going to do some web scraping right off the bat, and I'm going to show you what happens if I'll go to Amazon.uk. And we get this page. And as we can see, a lot of beautiful books about Power BI. Now, let's see if we can get this data into our Power BI desktop. And here we go. Select web from the sources. And I put in my URL. No problem. Press OK. And we wait for this screen. And now if I push the document, that doesn't look useful. I don't know how much you guys can see, but this is what it looks like. And this is one of the tables that we got. If we go back to Amazon and go down to the bottom, that's actually this part of the web page. Very useful, right? Okay. So we go back and then we use this add table using examples. Now what happens is it'll load an example of the page. And here we go. That's a great example. Okay, so basically what I'm going to do here is I'm going to type in Power BI. And it's going to start recommending or coming up with suggestions for what it is I'm looking for. And if I press one of these and use the next, it's going to say, I'll provide you with some examples. And here we go. So what we're seeing here is Power BI introducing Power BI, Power BI Intelligence Clinic, and so on. If I go back here, I have my Power BI Intelligence Clinic introducing Microsoft Power BI, and so on. So what's basically happening, if I really wish this one wouldn't be there, but that's where we are. I could start putting in some numbers. So let's say introducing Power BI is free. That's cheap. Introducing Power BI costs 0. Let's see if we can get price. The Power BI the Business Intelligence Clinic here is 1980. There we are. And again, it says, well, you've moved something around, and this is just messed up. Anyway, if we were a bit more lucky, it would actually have worked, and we could have seen it in the top. I'm just going to show you an example of how that would look. This is why you don't do live demos. Okay, here we go. So in this one, I've taken the one where I'm using the examples, and I've gotten this list. This is the result I was going for. So that didn't happen, obviously, but this is, like the slide said, the bad old ways. So let's try and go for a little bit better way of doing this. We go into options and settings. And then we go into preview features and we select new web table inference. Click OK, and we're asked to restart. And we don't need to save this. Like I said, options, preview feature, it's been there for a long time in preview. New web table inference. And then you restart the Power BI and do some more demo. Don't think my Power BI actually restarted. And here we go. So we select the get data from the web. We'll just use the same page. Get a better result. And here we go. If we look over to the left here, we have a bunch of tables now. If we look at the first one, it's the same as the one we saw before. It was the bottom of the page. But if I look at in table 2, now this is looking much better. Much better. So here we have the column with the names of the books. We have the types. We have some ratings. We have some dates. And in here, we actually have the prices as well. And even the Kindle prices, it looks like. So if I wanted to, I could just say load, and that would load into my model. And once that is done, that is where we wrap it up, and you clap and say, yes, this is everything I ever wanted. Casper, you're the greatest. Let's go. Of course not. You want more data. You want to get some useful data, actually. So we have one page, but we need more pages. And how do we do that? Well, let's get another example. In order to browse pages, you're going to need a predictable structure on your web page. And for example, Google has a very predictable model. It's hard to say. And I'm going to type in web scraping. I'm not using Python, but just web scraping. Now, if we look at this, we're going to find out that the predictability is actually not here. We're going to use an URL that has some kind of predictable structure. In order to find that on Google, we'll go to the next page, and then we'll see the part here. That part actually says start at 10. Now if I go back down, go back, it's 0. Because we all know indexes start at 0. Okay. So what we need to do now is we need to get some data. And we'll do this live as well. And we'll put in this page. Okay. And it's just going to work a little bit. Here we go. Yes. And the one we want. Just have to find it. Let's take a look. And as you can see, it's not the same as before when we saw the Amazon web page. It's here we're looking for, well, I think it's table 5. Looks correct. Web scraping, Wikipedia. If we look here, we have some Web Harvey, we have Wikipedia. This looks correct. And then this time we'll select transform data. Okay, so here we are. It was named table 5, and that's the one we're going to use. Now, what we want to do is we want to look at the advanced editor. As you can see here, we have our URL up here. And it was supposed to start at 0, and that is correct. we'll just change this. Page start. And then we'll turn it into a function. And if I remember correctly, we're going to do something like this: page start as text. That you use it as text, and like that. Let's say OK. And then because it's a function, we'll just rename it. So next thing we need is, of course, a list. And we're going to do that by doing a new blank query like that. And then we're going to put in, there we go. Write it again. There we go. 0 to, let's say 1000. Create a list of that. And then we'll convert it to a table. Say OK. Now I'm going to add a column because we had 10 results for each page. I'm going to add a column that's going to help us do that. Up here in standard, I'll do the modulo, and I'll tell it 10. And as we can see, 0, 0 at 10, 0 at 20. Okay. So we can filter this down to everything that's with a 0. And then we're just going to minimize this because otherwise it could take a while to get all those pages. And then we are going to invoke our custom function using our get search results. Why won't that do it for me? Column name, sorry. There we go, column number 1, okay. And I'm getting some errors. Cannot convert the value 0 to text. It's fair enough. So we're converting this to text. And there we go. So this, let's just go back. Was actually supposed to provide us with this was the error. So now we can unfold this. And it's going to provide us with, well, all the search results for the first 5 pages. And as you can see, actually on page 0 or the first page, there are a few extra links there. Anyway, that is the way to do it when you go for pages. But we're looking for more, because this, I mean, you can use that for basic web pages like Amazon, but if you want more depth, or you want to go deeper in your website, you're going to use Subpages. Yeah. The first page has to have a standard structure in the URL, just like I said before. There's some kind of structure in the URL on Google. In this case, I've taken a website called bold.dk. It's a football site. And up here we can see it says bold.dk, football. Looks a lot like the English football. Game, standard, and a date. And then we move on to the next list of matches. And those matches are starting on this date. And now if we look at those two and look at this, there's going to be an overlap in the pages on this website. Well, actually, that's the previous one, but that doesn't matter. The case is there's an overlap. It says the 9th of January and the 9th of January. So we need to take that into account whenever we're asking asking Power BI to iterate over these pages. Okay. This is almost the same as because now we want to move down and get some stats for these matches, and it's almost the same for these links, but not really. If we look at the links, we have Derby versus Barnsley, and it's gotten a unique identifier out here. Same for Swansea versus Charlton. I don't know how you pronounce that correctly. Anyway, they got this number out here, and we kind of need that in order to get down and get the stats from the game, you know, like corners, red cards, yellow cards, and all of those kinds of things. Okay, so this is the part where I'm skipping the live demo, because once this starts moving, it could take a while to load, and you need to take that into account once you're if you start web scraping. And the whole point of this is that, well, you gotta think about answer times and so on from the web pages, because you're reliant on that. Anyway, we start out by using the web inference method of getting our tables, and here we can see January 2nd, Thursday, and here I have the results. I have Derby, Barnsley, Swansea, Charlton, and so on. But because this is the advanced part of the show, we're going to move a little bit deeper and find out what's actually going on. So I'm going to introduce you to ways we're working with the data here. The first one is the web browser content. That is the function that is actually calling the web page. The second one is html.table, which is a function that converts your data, so to speak. Now, please note that I'm not a web developer, so I'm just going to read a lot of mumbo jumbo and not really understand it. But the web browser content returns a snapshot of the DOM model for the HTML page, and the DOM is an object model, and it defines elements as objects and properties, methods, and events for those elements. Now, the important part here is to note that there is an optional input for this function, which is a wait for. So you can set a timer or a trigger so that you won't move forward to the next step until this timer or trigger has completed. And this is useful because when we're doing the web browser contents, it's actually using a browser in the back to open your web page. And if that page takes a long time to load, for example, if you have a lot of JavaScript or something like that, it's a good idea to let it load until you move on to the next step. Now, the HTML table, as I said, it returns a table containing the results of running a specified CSS selector against the provided HTML from the web browser content. Okay, so like I said, that's a lot of mumbo jumbo to me, or somewhat, and could be to a lot of you, but if you're a web developer, you probably know what I'm talking about. And here we have them. Like I said, you have an optional for those. Okay, now we look at the code that is generated by doing this. Yeah, let's just dwell a little bit on that. We can almost think, well, this is matches. There's something about a child and TR and so on. Let's have a look at what it actually does. If we open our browser and go to the source and browse down, we can see here, like I said, we have matches. Those match, oddly enough. And then we have the nth child, that's one. Like I said, we have we have the matches up here. Now we're looking for which child we're going to look at. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And there we go. We have a table. And the table has start, it has team, it has league and country, and then the result. Okay. And the first child within that, well, here we go. Okay, this is the most important part we're going to look at now, and it's a little bit tricky. It's the row selector. We saw it at the bottom here. So now the row selector, that is a CSS selector. I don't know if anyone know what that is, but I can tell you that W3 schools, you know, the website you send new developers to when they can't figure out their stuff, is very helpful in this. Now, CSS selectors are patterns that are used to select elements you want to style when doing websites. And as we can see here, the HTML DOM is an object model for HTML, and it defines all these things I said before. Now we come to the easy part. The row selector, it all actually does it by itself. If you look at this, you tell that matches fifth child TR, then matches fifth child. The last part is optional. And it goes in and finds the table here and spits it out. Again, you can see time, team, league and country, and result. It's also the ones that goes into the column names. And then it has the time of day, the team names, the league and country, and the result. Okay. And yes, I promised you more, and we'll have a look at that now. All good things come to those who wait. Good. Now we take all those things I've just talked about and we put them together in order to go through the subpages, or go through the pages and then the subpages and get some data. Now, if we're looking at this, we'll go into the Derby Barnsley match. And as we can see, Jack Marriott scored in the 45th minute, and then so on and so forth. I'm not a big football guy, by the way. It's just a good example. Now, as we saw earlier, the URLs contain different names and numbers. So that means we need a way to get those. And that was those. Now, we need the URLs for these subpages. And again, we can go down into the source and we can see, oh, well, would you look at that? It's right there. So how do we do it? The row selector, oddly enough, there is a part of the row selector that says attribute value like this, for example, age, href, and then a value, and it selects all those elements in the href attribute that begins with the value HTTPS. Now, because this has some structure, there is starts with football and comp means match. So there we go. We can look for href attributes. Let's start with that. And if you see here, game URL refs a href football / comp, and you put them in double quotes, and there we go. I get this list. Okay, so now we need to move on. Oh yeah, there's for this website you get duplicates, so you remove those. Then we create the game URLs, doing a simple add column, put the game URL, or create those, and then we go back and look at what the pages look like if we use that URL. I'll get table 8, that's this result, That was the, you can see the times out here, who scored, and what is the score at the end of the game. Now, let's take a look at the code it then generates. That looks like this. And that's a bit hard to read, to say the least. So we're not actually sure what is going on here. We could put it through some kind of formatting, but we could also do this in a slightly better way. Now, a better function to use here is the web.page, which takes HTML as an input, and then web contents. Let's look at how we're using those. We combine the two, we put in web page, and then we put web contents into that, and then we feed it with our URL. Now, that gives us this result. We have this is things that happen in the game and the document that we've also seen for some of the other sites. And there's an event table as well. And if we go into the source of our website again, we can see there's a table here. It's called events table. And if we sort here, there was a class named event table. So we fold that out, we'll dive into that, and then we get the result we were looking for. Okay. Now, this is a comparison of the two results using the two methods. As you can see, they are pretty much the same. But if you remember this wall of code, that now, of course, looks a little different if it were to pop into the front. And let's just find it down here. I'll just delete that one. This is the one that we're actually using now. And as you can see, it's quite a bit easier to see what's actually going on. Yeah, there it is. Okay, and now we build using the blocks that we've created. It's actually pretty simple. We convert our game URLs query into a function, just like I did before in the demo. And now this time, instead of a page number, it takes a URL as input. And as you can remember, we just had the input created before. And then we create our game, convert our game stats into a function that we're going to use as well. And then we create a list of dates. Now, like I said, the list of dates should not overlap. That's why I'm adding 8 days instead of 7. Just make sure that it follows the structure of the page so that you don't get too much data. And then I format it as a date and create our week URLs. So here we have the URL for each of the weeks. Then we invoke the get games URL function using our week URL as input. And that's the stuff. Then we get this, the game URL or the ref URL for the stats page. Okay. We create those the URL again using the stat link and invoke the get games URL. Just like before. It's easy. You all know how to do this. Then we expand the results, and here we go. As we can see, Derby Barnsley up here, Swansea Charlton down here. Now, that's magic. We're getting to the end of the show actually, and we have a lot of time. So let me just tell you a couple of quick things about what you need to think about here. We have the lessons learned, and that is a part of it, of course. You use the built-in web scraping. That's not going to be enough for you because you're going to need more pages and so on. the browser source can gain some insights to making this easier. Actually, you'll find that some sites, if you look into their source code, they are actually telling you what queries they are sending into their API, and then you can just use that instead. You need to have some kind of structure on web pages. It doesn't matter what you do, you're going to need some kind of structure on these web pages, and that's the same if you're using some kind of web scraper you're paying for, or if you're building it in Python or whatever you're doing. There's no magic bullet function in Power Query. It's a given. It never is. And web scraping can be very time consuming. Now, this is what I wanted to really talk to you about, because it is insanely demanding going through all those pages, because your Power BI is opening the page in the back. You'll also find that if you publish this to the Power BI service, you're not going to have a successful update of your data, because there is no browser in the back of the Power BI service. I haven't found a good way to get around this yet using these, well, somewhat basic scraping methods. You would have to write some kind of code, I think, in order to get around it. Because as long as you're doing the web where you're actually getting the contents into Power BI, the service is going to have a problem. And like I said before, if you have a lot of pages, for example, if I wanted to load all the football stats for the last couple of years, I would have to open 52 weeks every week and then open every game there is on that page in order to extract those stats. And that is a lot of queries, and some sites might even close down my query before it runs to the end. Yeah. So, oh, there we have Ben. I was thinking about looking at if there were some questions, and there's Ben.
So let me jump in here. So thanks for that, Casper. And I had a quick question. So no major questions. But I was thinking, can you share, or are you able to share the file that you used to build the demo from, if you've got that? Because I think it's quite difficult, you know, with any sort of code, it's quite difficult to read that on the screen, especially with such a high resolution that you've got there. And I should have caught that earlier, because
sorry about that.
What's on the screen now, but a lesson for us. So yeah, if you're able to share the presentation, we will make sure that for everybody that's on the call, I guess put a quick request on Meetup, and I'll share it from my OneDrive, and we can share that link out. It's also a good time just to say that all of this video and all the previous videos, I put them on a YouTube channel or playlist on my channel, so they're all available to be watched, as this one will be as well. And obviously over the years, or over the next year, that will just kind of grow. So we've got a combination of everybody's videos on there.
Yeah.
And you can make mine now. I don't need to be that big.
Sorry. Well, I got 3 Power BI desktop files, and I'll share those with you. They go through the basic web scraping, both methods, and then it'll go through pages and then the sub pages. Keep in mind that it's still the Danish website, but you can just switch in the URLs and you should be just fine.
Okay, great. So we'll have a quick look at that. We have got a question that's come across now, which I'll read it out to you. That'll give you time to think on your feet, of course. Suppose you had a date picker in a website such that you would have to select a date. Can you do that via M? So I guess the question is, in the M code, can we go and query the date on the date picker? Now, I've got an answer for that, but I'm going to let you answer it.
Well, the basic, the easy answer is no, you can't. But once you press the date, that will send some kind of query. I mean, if you're looking to get the data out of an iframe or JavaScript or something, you can forget that. But if it sends a message to the backend, give me the data for this date, that's probably going to figure out somewhere on the page or in the URL.
Yeah, so I kind of agree. If we can work out what the API is, and then we can pass that potentially as a parameter in M, and then that would give us a query. And I've done pretty similar things anyway, going out, not necessarily web scraping, but certainly to other APIs.
Yeah. Towards an API, it would be somewhat easy to just use it as an input for that API, because you're going to call something and a header and so on.
Yeah.
But once you just click that select, you'll probably see, just like in Google, that, well, it figures in the top bar there in the URL, and then it's just a matter of finding the code for it, so to speak.
Yeah. Cool. We don't have any other questions coming in. Mr. Taylor, do you want to wrap that up? Sheb, were you going to say anything? Casper, I would like to say thank you, but I suspect Alex will come and say that anyway.
Yeah. Yes, thank you, Casper, for your talk tonight. Thank you, we really appreciate it. So, sorry you can't be in sunny Manchester this evening to meet the community and share beers and pizza. We will get you across to Manchester very, very soon when it's safe to do so. And it's been a pleasure having you on board and being part of the user group this evening. I was going to get Sheb involved tonight to talk about our lunch and learn sessions, but Sheb, are you there? I'm guessing he's doing bedtime, so I might pass him on to Ben, actually. Ben, do you want to just give us an overview of Series 3 and where we're up to and what's coming next?
Yeah, thanks for putting me on the spot. Let's just do this. Thank you. And if I'd known I was going to present, I'd have put a green screen up as well. So Lunch and Learn, of course, is, should I think now, Wednesdays, aren't they? 12:30 till 1:30. They're all typically a couple of sessions each, so they're very focused. Each session is 30 minutes long, and we have 2 presenters. Where are we up to? I need to get on my screen because I think
the next one's the 7th of October, so it's fortnightly, I believe.
Hi everyone. Hi guys. I'm here.
Here comes Sheb to rescue us. They are fortnightly now. Thanks, Alex. Sheb, tell us about the series Lunch and Learn tonight.
Hi everyone. So this week, excuse my locks. Still in lockdown mode. So Lunch and Learn's going really well. We had a session this Wednesday looking at 2 different time intelligence talks. One based on your normal year-to-date, quarter-to-date, month-to-date sort of functions, using disconnected tables and creating a sort of solution that allows different users to come in and look at different points in time. And then we also had Lewis Holmes, who then did historic point in time reporting, which was slightly different to the normal, just normal sort of time intelligence functions. So it's more about, okay, well, how much change have I got in my pocket right now? I've got £10.20 in my pocket. But what if someone asked you, well, how much change did you have in your pocket, 3 months ago? I'd be like, I don't know. But that's what point in time reporting does. And so that was the difference. That was the second sort of talk that Lewis did, and they're available on our website, powerbisupport.co.uk, if you wanted to go and have a look at that. Next session is in about 2 weeks' time, and it's going to be based on exactly what Casper has been doing today, web scraping. So we're going to be web scraping fantasy football data. We're going to bring a whole load of data down into our Power BI report, and then we're going to throw it out to you guys to then go and create a report for us. And that's going to go into a competition format, but there's more to come on that, with giveaways and prizes available for that as well. And that runs every 2 weeks on a Wednesday afternoon during lunchtimes, 12:30 to 1:30 BST, which is UK time. And you can find all the details on the meetup, on Manchester Power BI meetup. And hopefully the next session, we've we've missed Alex doing our intros over the last couple of episodes, and Ben as well, actually, who's been MIA from those sessions. But hopefully we'll have them back next time. So yes, I'll pass back over to Alex to finish up. But hopefully see you on the Lunch and Learn in a couple of weeks' time. Back to you, Alex.
All right, well, just to wrap up, guys, we'll be back on the in 5 weeks' time. So set your calendars. I think it's actually the 30th of October. We've got Jens Vestergaard and Tanya Tomac. I will update you in terms of their talks. They'll be on Meetup. I'll send an announcement either tomorrow or Monday. So do RSVP. It will be another webinar in Teams. If you've enjoyed Casper's session and want to share the link that you've clicked on tonight, send it on to friends and family or colleagues. And if you have any questions or want the slide deck, Casper will be happy to share that with you. I also have a copy, so I'm happy to email it across if Casper's fine with that. So we're back in 5 weeks' time. I'll be back helping out with Power BI Lunch and Learn in just under 2 weeks. So enjoy the rest of your evening, guys. I'll catch you very, very soon, and look after yourselves and stay safe.